Black rook in rainy weather. On the stiff twig up there hunches a wet black rook, arranging and rearranging its feathers in the rain. I do not expect a miracle or an accident to set the sight on fire in my eye. I seek no more in the desultory weather some design, but let spotted leaves fall as they fall without ceremony or portent. Although I admit I desire occasionally some back talk from the mute sky, I can't honestly complain. A certain minor light may still leap incandescent out of kitchen table or chair, as if a celestial burning took possession of the most obtuse objects now and then, thus hallowing an interval otherwise inconsequent by bestowing largesse, honor, one might say love. At any rate, I now walk wary, for it could happen even in this dull, ruinous landscape, skeptical yet politic, ignorant of whatever angel may choose to flare suddenly at my elbow. I only know that a rook, ordering its black feathers, can so shine as to seize my senses, haul my eyelids up, and grant a brief respite from fear of total neutrality. With luck trekking stubborn through this season of fatigue, I shall patch together a content of sorts. Miracles occur, if you care to call those spasmodic tricks of radiance miracles. The wait's begun again, the long wait for the angel, for that rare, random descent. The earthenware head. Fired in sanguine clay, the model head fit nowhere. Brick dust complected, eye under a dense lid, on the long bookshelf it stood, stolidly propping thick volumes of prose, spite-set ape of her look. Best rid hearthstone at once of the outrageous head, still she would not junk it. No place it seemed for the effigy to sit on its pillared neck in peace. Rough boys, spying an extra pate, glowering sullen and pompous from an ash-heap, might well seize this prize, maltreat the hostage head in shocking ways, and rouse the sly nerve up that knits to each original its coarse copy. A dark tarn she thought of then, thick-silted with weeds obscured, to serve her exacting turn. But out of the watery aspic, laurelled by fins, the simulacrum leered, lewdly beckoning, and her courage wavered. She blenched as one who drowns, and resolved more ceremoniously to lodge the mimic head in a crotched willow, green vaulted by foliage. Let bell-tongued birds descant in blackest feather on the rendering, grain by grain, of that uncouth shape to simple sod again, through drear and dulcet weather. Yet, shrined on her shelf, the grisly visage endured, despite her wrung hands, her tears, her praying vanish. Steadfast and evil-starred, it ogled through rock-fault, wind-flaw, and fisted wave, an antique hag-head too tough for knife to finish, refusing to diminish by one jot its basilisk look of love. Departure of the ghost. Enter the chilly no-man's land of precisely 5 o'clock in the morning. The no-color void where the waking head rubbishes out the draggled lot of sulphurous dreamscapes and obscure lunar conundrums which seemed, when dreamed, to mean so profoundly much, gets ready to face the ready-made creation of chairs and bureaus and sleep-twisted sheets. This is the kingdom of the fading apparition, the oracular ghost who dwindles on pin legs to a knot of laundry, with a classic bunch of sheets upraised as a hand emblematic of farewell. At this joint between two worlds and two entirely incompatible modes of time, the raw material of our meat and potato thoughts assumes the nimbus of ambrosial revelation, and so departs. But as chair and bureau are the hieroglyphs of some godly utterance wakened heads ignore, So these posed sheets, before they thin to nothing, speak in sign language of a lost other world, a world we lose by merely waking up into sanity. The common ghosts crowed out, worms riddling its tongue, or walks for Hamlet all day on the printed page, or bodies itself for dowagers in draughty castles at 12, or inhabits the crystal of the sick man's eye, trailing its telltale tatters only at the outermost fringe of mundane vision. But this ghost goes, hand aloft, goodbye, goodbye, not down into the rocky gizzard of the earth, but toward the region where our thick atmosphere diminishes, and God knows what is there. A point of exclamation marks that sky in ringing orange like a stellar carrot. Its round period, displaced and green, suspends beside it the first point, the starting point of Eden next the new moon's curve. Go, ghost of our mother and father, ghost of us, and ghost of our dreams' children, in those sheets which signify our origin and end, to the cloud cuckoo land of color wheels and pristine alphabets and cows that moo and moo as they jump over moons as new as that crisp cusp toward which you voyage now. Hail and farewell, hello, goodbye, O keeper of the profane grail, the dreaming skull. The disquieting muses. Mother, mother, what ill-bred aunt, or what disfigured and unsightly cousin did you so unwisely keep unasked to my christening, that she sent these ladies in her stead, with heads like darning eggs, to nod and nod and nod at foot and head, and at the left side of my crib? Mother, who made such lovely stories of Mixie Blackshort, the hero bear, mother whose witches always, always got baked into gingerbread, I wonder whether you saw them, whether you said words to rid me of those three ladies, nodding by night around my bed, mouthless, eyeless, with stitched bald head. In the hurricane when father's 12 study windows bellied in like bubbles about to break, you fed my brother and me cookies and Ovaltine, and helped us somewhat thinly choir, Thor is angry, boom, 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 Thor is angry, we don't care. But those ladies broke the panes. When on tiptoe the schoolgirls danced, blinking flashlights like fireflies and singing the glowworm's song, I could not lift a foot in the twinkle dress, but heavy-footed stood aside in the shadow cast by my dismal-headed godmothers, and you cried and cried, and the shadow stretched, the lights went out. Mother, you sent me to piano lessons and praised my arabesques and trills, although each teacher found my touch oddly wooden in spite of scales and the hours of practicing, my ear tone-deaf and yes, unteachable. I learned elsewhere from muses unhired by you, dear mother. I woke one day to see you, mother, floating above me in bluest air, on a green balloon bright with a million flowers and bluebirds that never were, never, never found anywhere. But the little planet bobbed away like a soap bubble as you called, "Come here," and I faced my traveling companions. Day now, night now, at head, side, feet, they stand their vigil in gowns of stone, faces blank as the day I was born, their shadows long in the setting sun that never brightens or goes down. And this is the kingdom you bore me to, mother, mother, but no frown of mine will betray the company I keep. On the decline of oracles. My father kept a speckled conch by 2 bronze bookends of ships in sail, and as I listened its cold teeth seethed with voices of that ambiguous sea old Birkeland missed, who held a shell to hear the sea he could not hear. What the seashell spoke to his inner ear he knew, but no peasants know. My father died, and when he died, he willed his books and shell away. The books burned up, sea took the shell, but I keep the voices he set in my ear, and in my eye the sight of those blue unseen waves for which the ghost of Birkelin grieves. The peasants feast and multiply, and never need see what I see. In the temple of broken stones, above a worn curtain, rears the white head of a god or madman. Nobody knows which or dares ask. From him I have tomorrow's gossip and doldrums. So much is vision good for. Like a persistent stitch in the side, it nags, is tedious. Straddling a stool in the third-floor window booth of the Alexandra house of a petty curé, I regard with some fatigue the smoky rooms of the restaurant opposite. See impose itself on the cook at the steaming stove, a picture of what's going to happen. I've to wait it out. It will come. It comes. 3 barely known men are coming up a stair. This veils both stove and cook. One is pale with orange hair. Behind glasses the second's eyes are blurred. The third walks leaning on a stick and smiling. These trivial images invade the cloistral eye like pages from a gross comic strip. And toward the happening of this happening the earth turns now. In half an hour I shall go down the shabby stair and meet coming up those 3. Worth less than present, past, this future, worthless such vision to eyes gone dull, that once descried Troy's towers fall, saw evil break out of the north. Poem for Paul Clay's Perseus, the triumph of wit over suffering. Head alone shows you in the prodigious act of digesting what centuries alone digest, the mammoth lumbering statuary of sorrow, indissoluble enough to riddle the guts of a whale with holes and bleed him white into salt seas. Hercules had a simple time rinsing those stables. A baby's tears would do it. But who'd volunteer to gulp the Laocoon, the dying Gaul, and those innumerable pietas festering on the dim walls of Europe's chapels, museums, and sepulchres? You who borrowed feathers for your feet, not lead, not nails, and a mirror to keep the snaky head in safe perspective, could outface the Gorgon grimace of human agony. A look to numb limbs, not a basilisk blink, nor a double whammy, but all the accumulated last grunts, groans, cries, and heroic couplets, concluding the million enacted tragedies on these blood-soaked boards, and every private twinge a hissing asp to petrify your eyes, and every village catastrophe a writhing length of cobra, and the decline of empires the thick coil of a vast anaconda. Imagine the world fisted to a fetus head, ravined, seamed with suffering from conception upwards, and there you have it in hand. Grit in the eye or a sore thumb can make anyone wince, but the whole globe expressive of grief turns gods like kings to rocks. Those rocks, cleft and worn, themselves then grow ponderous and extend despair on earth's dark face. So might rigor mortis come to stiffen all creation, were it not for a bigger belly still than swallow's joy. You enter now, armed with feathers to tickle as well as fly, and a fun-house mirror that turns the tragic muse to the beheaded head of a sullen doll, one braid a bedraggled snake, hanging limp as the absurd mouth hangs in its lugubrious pout. Where are the classic limbs of stubborn Antigone, the red royal robes of Phaedra, the tear-dazzled sorrows of Malfi's gentle duchess? Gone in the deep convulsion gripping your face, muscles and sinews bunched, victorious, as the cosmic laugh does away with the unstitching, plaguey wounds of an eternal sufferer. To you, Perseus, the palm, and may you poise and repoise until time stop the celestial balance which weighs our madness with our sanity. On the difficulty of conjuring up a dryad. Ravening through the persistent bric-a-brac of blunt pencils, rose-sprigged coffee cup, postage stamps, stacked books, clamor and yop, neighborhood cock-crow, all nature's prodigal back-talk, the vaunting mind snubs impromptu spiels of wind and wrestles to impose its own order on what is. With my fantasy alone brags the importunate head, arrogant among rook-tongued spaces, sheep greens, finned falls. I shall compose a crisis to stun sky blackout, drive gibbering mad trout, cock, ram, that bulk so calm on my jealous stare, self-sufficient as they are. But no hocus-pocus of green angels damasks with dazzle the threadbare eye. My trouble, doctor, is I see a tree, and that damn scrupulous tree won't practice wiles to beguile sight, e.g. by cant of light concoct a Daphne. My tree stays tree. However I wrench obstinate bark and trunk to my sweet will, no luminous shape steps out radiant in limb, eye, lip, to hoodwink the honest earth, which point-blank spurns such fiction as nymphs. Cold vision will have no counterfeit palmed off on it. No doubt now in dream-propertied fall some moon-eyed, star-lucky sleight-of-hand man watches my jilting lady squander coin, gold-leaf stocked ditches, and the opulent air goes studded with seed, while this beggared brain hatches no fortune, but from leaf, from grass, thieves what it has. November graveyard. The scene stands stubborn. Skinflint trees hoard last leaves, won't mourn, wear sackcloth, or turn to elegiac dryads, and dour grass guards the hard-hearted emerald of its grassiness, however the grandiloquent mind may scorn such poverty. So no dead men's cries, flower forget-me-nots, between the stone paving this grave ground. Here's honest rot to unpick the elaborate heart, pare bone free of the fictive vein. When one stark skeleton bulks real, all saints' tongues fall quiet. Flies watch no resurrections in the sun. At the essential landscape stare till your eyes foist a vision dazzling on the wind. Whatever lost ghosts flare, damned, howling in their shrouds across the moor, rave on the leash of the starving mind which peoples the bare room, the blank, untenanted air. Sow. God knows how our neighbor managed to breed his great sow. Whatever his shrewd secret, he kept it hid in the same way he kept the sow, impounded from public stare, prize ribbon, and pig-show. But one dusk our questions commended us to a tour through his lantern-lit maze of barns to the lintel of the sunk sty door to gape at it. Behold, no rose and lark-spurred china suckling with a penny slot for thrifty children, nor dolt pig, ripe for heckling, about to be glorified for prime flesh and golden crackling in a parsley halo, nor even one of the common barnyard sows, mire-smirched, blousy, munching thistle and knotweed on her snout cruise, bloat ton of milk on the move, hedged by a litter of feet-foot ninnies, shrilling her hulk to halt for a swig at the pink tits. No, this vast brobdingnag bulk of a sow lounged belly-bedded on that black compost, fat rutted eyes dream-filmed. What a vision of ancient hoghood must thus wholly engross the great grandam. Our marvel blazoned a night in glittering guise, unhorsed and shredded in the grove of combat by a grizzly bristled boar, fabulous enough to straddle that sow's heat. But our farmer whistled, then with a jocular fist thwacked the barrel nape, and the green copse castled pig hove, letting legend like dried mud drop slowly, grunt on grunt, up in the flickering light to shape a monument, prodigious in gluttonies as that hog whose want made lean Lent of kitchen slops, and, stomaching no constraint, proceeded to swill the seven-troughed seas and every earth-quaking continent. Spinster. Now this particular girl, during a ceremonious April walk with her latest suitor, found herself, of a sudden, intolerably struck by the birds' irregular babble and the leaves' litter. By this tumult afflicted, she observed her lover's gestures unbalance the air, his gait stray uneven through a rank wilderness of fern and flower. She judged petals in disarray, the whole season sloven. How she longed for winter then, scrupulously austere in its order of white and black, ice and rock, each sentiment within border, and heart's frosty discipline exact as a snowflake. But here a burgeoning unruly enough to pitch her 5 queenly wits into vulgar motley, a treason not to be borne, let idiots reel giddy in Bedlam spring, she withdrew neatly, and round her house she set such a barricade of barb and check against mutinous weather as no mere insurgent man could hope to break, with curse, fist, threat, or love either. Battle scene from the comic operatic fantasy, The Seafarer. It beguiles this little odyssey in pink and lavender over a surface of gently graded turquoise tiles that represent a sea with checkered waves and gaily bear up the seafarer, gaily, gaily, in his pink plume and armor. A fairy tale gondola of paper ferries the fish-pond Sinbad, who poises his pastel spear toward 3 pinky-purple monsters which uprear off the ocean floor with fanged and dreadful head. Beware, beware, the whale, the shark, the squid. But fins and scales of each scrolled sea beast troll no slime, no weed. They are polished for the joust, they gleam like Easter eggshells, rose and amethyst. Ahab, fulfill your boast, bring home each storied head, one thrust, one thrust, one thrust, and they are dead. So fables go, and so all children sing their bathtub battles deep, hazardous and long. But oh, sage grown-ups know sea dragon for sofa, fang for pasteboard, and siren song for fever in a sleep. Laughing, laughing of greybeards wakes us up. On the plethora of dryads. Hearing a white saint rave about a quintessential beauty visible only to the paragon heart, I tried my sight on an apple tree that for eccentric knob and wart had all my love. Without meat or drink I sat, starving my fantasy down, to discover that metaphysical tree which hid from my worldling look its brilliant vein far deeper in gross wood than axe could cut. But before I might blind sense to see with the spotless soul, each particular quirk so ravished me, every pock and stain bulked more beautiful than flesh of any body flawed by love's prince. Battle however I would to break through that patchwork of leaves bicker and whisk in babbled tongues, streak and mottle of torn bark, no visionary lightnings pierced my dense lid. Instead, a wanton fit dragged each dazzled sense apart, surfeiting eye, ear, taste, touch, smell. Now, snared by this miraculous art, I ride earth's burning carousel, day in, day out, and such grit corrupts my eyes, I must watch sluttish dryads twitch their multifarious silks in the holy grove, until no chaste tree but suffers blotch under flux of those seductive reds, greens, blues. All the dead deers. Rigged poker stiff on her back with a granite grin, this antique museum-cased lady lies, companioned by the gimcrack relics of a mouse and a shrew that battened for a day on her ankle-bone. These three, unmasked now, bear dry witness to the gross eating game we'd wink at if we didn't hear stars grinding, crumb by crumb, our own grist down to its bony face. How they grip us through thin and thick, these barnacle dead. This lady here's no kin of mine, yet kin she is. She'll suck blood and whistle my marrow clean to prove it. As I think now of her head, from the mercury-backed glass, mother, grandmother, great-grandmother reach hag hands to haul me in, and an image looms under the fish-pond surface where the daft father went down with orange duck feet winnowing his hair. All the long-gone darlings, they get back though, soon, soon, be it by wakes, weddings, childbirths, or a family barbecue, any touch, taste, tangs fit for those outlaws to ride home on and to sanctuary, usurping the armchair between tick and tack of the clock, until we go, each skulled and cross-boned Gulliver, riddled with ghosts, to lie, deadlocked with them, taking root as cradles rock.